I've been there more times than I'd like to admit, spending a weekend hunting down a cheap LED wash fixture, only to find it flickering, overheating, or looking like a cheap strip of garden lights once it's actually on stage. Those regret moments stick with you, especially when you're trying to pull together a small venue, a home theater, or a weekend gig, and you need something that just works without turning the whole setup into a troubleshooting session. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The big question with the ADJ lighting Dotz Matrix COB LED series is whether it feels like the smarter buy that actually saves you time, money, and a handful of headaches. When I first started looking at the Dotz line, the thing that stood out was the promise of a compact, CO-based LED that can serve both as a wash and a pixel mapping element. In the world of stage lighting, compact is often code for you can cram a lot of fixtures into a tight rig without adding too much weight or heat. And that's a real advantage if you're working in a small club or a DIY concert space. The unit size lets you mount it in a grid, on a truss, or even on a ceiling without the bulk you usually get from older metal halide fixtures. That alone can free up a lot of real estate on a light board that's already screaming for space. But size isn't everything. The Dotz Matrix uses a chip-on board, COB, LED design, which tends to produce a smoother, more even light field compared to traditional discrete LED arrays. In practice, that means when you're painting a backdrop with a solid color, you get fewer hot spots and a more consistent wash. I tried it on a small stage set for a local theater production, and the audience could tell the difference between a patchy wash and the uniform glow this unit delivered. The color blending felt natural, and there wasn't the annoying rainbow effect that sometimes shows up with cheaper single-color LED strips. One of the practical strengths I noticed right away is how little heat the fixture generates. Because COB LEDs are more efficient, the unit stays relatively cool even after an hour of continuous use at full intensity. That's a big deal if you're mounting it in a tight rack or a small booth where airflow is limited. The low heat also means you're not battling a noisy fan, which keeps the ambient sound clean, a subtle benefit that's easy to overlook until you experience it. On the control side, the Dotz Matrix plays nicely with standard DMX setups. It accepts the usual 0, 2, 5 channel values, and you can address it just like any other moving light. For someone who already has a console or a software controller, integration is straightforward. I didn't have to wrestle with proprietary software or spend hours configuring custom protocols. The fact that it responds predictably to basic fade-in, fade-out, and strobe commands makes it a solid plug-and-play option for both seasoned techs and hobbyists who are just starting to dabble in lighting design. Now, let's talk about the trade-offs. The biggest limitation I ran into is the pixel resolution. Because it's a single-panel matrix rather than a high-density pixel grid, you don't get the ultra-sharp pixel mapping that you would with a dedicated LED screen. If you're planning to run detailed video content or intricate graphics, you'll notice that the image isn't as crisp as a purpose-built video wall. That's not a deal-breaker for most live music applications where the matrix is used more for color washes or simple graphics, but it's something to keep in mind if you need fine detail. Another point worth mentioning is the color range. While the COB design gives you smooth blends, the color palette is limited to what the fixture's built-in color mixing can produce. Some reviewers of similar fixtures have complained about a slight green bias in certain shades, and in my own testing, the deep blues felt a touch less saturated than a high-end LED bar I own. If you need truly accurate color reproduction for broadcast or museum lighting, you might want to look at fixtures that boast a wider gamut and calibrated color output. For most clubs, bars, and small productions, though, the range is more than adequate. Pricing is always a sticky subject. The Dotz Matrix sits in a middle ground, more expensive than the no-name cheap LED panels you see on auction sites, but significantly cheaper than high-end moving heads with built-in pixel mapping. Considering the combination of low heat, decent color blending, and easy DMX integration, the value proposition feels honest. You're not paying for a lot of extra bells and whistles you'll never use, but you're also not skimping on the basics that make a light reliable night after night. Who should consider buying this? If you're a small venue owner, a band that does its own lighting, a church tech team looking for versatile washes, or a hobbyist who wants a compact fixture that won't overheat, the Dotz Matrix checks most boxes. Its footprint lets you hang multiple